Right now, you may be contemplating doing an IVF treatment. It may feel like your next logical step. It may even feel like your only step. And with choosing IVF, obviously, we know there's a huge financial impact with this. It can take upwards of 3 cycles at a cost of $60,000 to get a successful outcome. Now, if you're listening to the podcast here, you know that we take a functional approach to this, using functional lab testing, making targeted diet and lifestyle changes to get to the bottom of why it's not working in the first place. So we don't focus on the infertility diagnosis. We look at the whole person. So with IVF, even though that may feel like your next logical step, if you have not considered a functional approach, I wanted you to sit down today with your partner and really take a listen to why this approach can help you have your baby. And really, there's some common fears and worries around taking a functional approach. So I wanted to re-release this episode, have you listen to it. And before you go and spend $60,000 average at a fertility clinic, looking at a functional approach, which really still has an investment, but nowhere near the cost of this. Plus, with the functional approach, you can actually have a healthy pregnancy, healthy postpartum period, healthy children, whereas IVF doesn't address any of that. So excited for you to be here. Thank you for listening, and feel free to leave a review on iTunes. I'm excited to announce that our online Mindfulness Fertility series is starting Thursday, September the 26th. This is a 6-week online program that helps embrace your fertility journey with proven relaxation techniques and stress management strategies that help you regain control and cope with infertility in a much more positive way. Space is very limited, so hop on the waitlist to be notified first when registration opens. This program is a must if you have an IUI or an IVF coming up, and it's essential for anyone trying to get pregnant naturally. Go to Fab Fertile, FABfertile.com, and click on Shop, then Mindfulness Fertility Series to jump on the waitlist. That's Fab Fertile, FABfertile, and click on Shop, and then click on Mindfulness Fertility Series to jump on the waitlist.
And you're in a rush and you go to get the fertility treatment and it's not successful, and then you decide, I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to try to take the 6 months and work my body and maybe take a different approach. Understanding that every time that you do IVF, you are adding risk and stressors to your body.
Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Clark, and my mission is to inspire, motivate, and empower you. And most of all, I want you to wake up. So with functional medicine, we can discover what causes infertility and eventually reverse the condition. Today, I'm welcoming back Brandy Buskow to the podcast, and we're digging into common fears and worries around starting a functional medicine program to improve fertility. So definitely check out episode 6 for a functional medicine 101 talk, plus a look at some of the tools we use to help couples conceive. So Brandy is part of my team here at Fab Fertile. She is an integral part of our couples coaching program, which uses functional lab testing, diet, and lifestyle changes to dramatically improve conception. So if you're struggling with infertility, your body is desperately trying to tell you something. Focusing on your health will either help you get pregnant naturally, or if you need to go to the fertility clinic, it will improve your chances of success. Brandy is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, certified transformational health coach, and EFT practitioner, and she loves supporting women so they can learn how functional medicine addresses the underlying cause of disease or illness. And before we jump into today's show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this to make sure you never miss an episode. Hey, Brandy, excited to have you back on the podcast.
Thanks, Sarah. It's fun to be back.
Today, we're going to dig into some common fears and worries around taking a functional medicine approach to infertility. And I think a lot of the times when we're talking about this functional medicine approach, so the conventional medicine is basically you name the disease and you treat it with a drug. Whereas in functional medicine, we're looking at the root cause, looking at all the systems of the body, and then really taking that individualized diet and lifestyle approach. And we use functional testing as well. So sometimes even with the functional medicine thing, people are saying, well, how will this impact my eggs? How will this impact my low AMH diagnosis? How will this help with my unexplained infertility? Because why would it matter that we should look at food sensitivities and gut health? And really we focusing just on that one piece of your infertility. If you look at the whole body, that actually helps your fertility. Because if you've got a hormone imbalance or a gut infection or a food sensitivity, inflammation in your body. And so Brandy and I go into detail in our functional medicine 101 talk. So definitely let's listen to that episode, and we'll kind of dig further into functional medicine and why. But today we kind of wanted to go through these fears and worries as to, why would I even want to take a functional medicine approach?
Yeah, and we do get a lot of these common questions that come up. So we talk about this a lot in a lot of the things that we do, but I always think it's good to circle back, go through these common questions again, and really address them and dig deeper into them.
Absolutely. So one of the first ones we talk about is, so what if I'm sensitive to my favorite foods? And this comes up because we have everyone that one of our first steps is to have people do the elimination diet. You're taking out those top allergens, so dairy, gluten, soy, corn, peanuts, eggs, take them out for 10 days and then systematically reintroduce them. And you could be intolerant or sensitive to your favorite foods. Thing is, it's not forever. It's if you do have a leaky gut, because a lot of the times you can come back to your favorite foods, which could be an indicator that you have leaky gut or intestinal permeability. And then as we work on gut health, you can then reintroduce those foods later. So it's just a snapshot in time. It's not forever. Do you have any other comments on that one, Brandy?
Yeah, so it's also something that you might sometimes hear referred to in functional medicine as oral tolerance. When you have a lot of underlying stressors going on, one of the manifestations of those stressors could be that you start to get reactions to the foods that you most commonly eat. And so we'll have people do a food sensitivity test, and a lot of the times the foods that come back high are the foods that they eat on a regular basis. And that's not because these foods are bad for you or they're not healthy. Usually that's a pretty good indication to us when we're also digging into other tests, is that there's probably a leaky gut going on. There's an imbalance in your gut bacteria. And so temporarily, we're going to have you eliminate these foods so that you can kind of reduce that load of stress on your body while we work on providing all the things that your body needs to start healing itself. And then eventually you will be able to reintroduce those foods into your diet. Obviously we never want to be eating the same thing day in and day out every single day, because that can set us up for sensitivities. After you've done the work, you should be able to bring healthy foods back into your diet on a rotational basis and have a lot of variety of foods that you can eat.
So for me, I did take a food sensitivity test, and I found a lot of the foods I was sensitive to, and they were my favorite foods. But eventually, as I healed my gut, I was able to then bring those foods back in. It's a snapshot in time, it's not forever. And so another one we get a lot of questions I'm already taking a bunch of supplements. Do I need more? So really in our approach, because we're using functional testing, so typically we're looking at the food sensitivity test, we're looking at a hormone test, we're using the Dutch test, looking at the GI map test, which is our stool test, and then we're also looking at hair tissue mineral analysis. So we're really taking a targeted approach to this, and so the supplements are for a targeted amount of time, not for years and years. Well, there's a few that we would recommend on a regular basis, sort of the basics. But in general, if we find something, it's a protocol for a targeted amount of time. And I think other times, I know I've experienced it where I just keep getting prescribed a whole bunch of supplements that were really not targeted, and I didn't even know why I was taking them, and they didn't really address the root cause for me.
Yeah, and this is something that commonly happens, I think, for most people, is as you're going through this journey, you're doing a lot of research. And so you'll come across different research or different blogs or different information saying this is good for egg health and that's good for egg health and this is good for fertility and you should take this for sperm health and all of these different things. And the problem is that's a generalized recommendation. And so the difference when we are making recommendations is if you are taking a bunch of supplements, we will review them. There have been times where some of the supplements that our clients are taking have fillers or things in it that include things that showed up on their food sensitivity test. So for instance, if they were sensitive to gluten, gluten is pretty common in a lot of supplements. So if that's the case, we'll have you, stop taking that supplement. Another instance could be hydrochloric acid. So that's something that's common in a lot of supplements, But if you have the bacterial infection H. pylori, you do not want to be taking hydrochloric acid because it can make it worse. So, although it may seem frustrating that you're taking all of these supplements and we may have you change them or recommend that you change them, we're doing it based on your personal health history, what we're seeing on the test results, and trying to formulate something that's going to work specifically for you. And as you mentioned, Sarah, as we're going through the protocol, there will be periods of time where you might be taking more supplements than normal. And that's usually because we're targeting a specific protocol. And most commonly that happens during a phase when we're addressing parasites or bacterial infections from a stool test, but it's a short period of time. It's not forever. It's just to specifically address those issues and allow the gut to begin to heal. And then eventually, you'll just be on maintenance things like digestive enzymes and a prenatal and maybe an omega-3 supplement and a probiotic. So it really is very targeted to you specifically and what your needs are, what the test results tell us. And, sometimes people just have supplement fatigue where they're taking so many things, they don't even know why. And we just pare some of that down just to make it simpler. So they're not taking like fistfuls of supplements constantly.
Exactly. So taking that individual customized approach, and because a lot of people can be self-prescribing, seeing what are things that are good for egg health or what are things that are good for specific infertility diagnoses, whereas we're looking at the whole body and really taking that individual approach. So even though there may be some supplements you're taking, they are customized for you.
Yeah. And I want to add one more thing about the supplements, because I think this is something that can be somewhat of a misconception. Is supplements, we do recommend them, and there are periods of time during a protocol where you are taking quite a few, but it's not the only part of the protocol. And so I think this is what gets confused is people will say, well, I went to this practitioner and all they did was give me a bunch of supplements. And supplements have their place. And it's definitely part of the model that I was taught in functional diagnostic nutrition, but it's only a very small part of the protocol. So you can't just take all the supplements and not do anything else. So I really want to reiterate that, because I think a lot of people just think, well, you're just going to give me a bunch of supplements and that's what's going to make me better. No. I mean, we'll give you supplements specifically for you, but you can't just do the supplements and not sleep, not work on the mindfulness, over exercise, stress about everything, not, clean up the diet and the environmental stuff. Like it's a whole body approach. It's not just about the supplements.
Yeah, you can't out supplement a poor diet or lifestyle. It's the whole thing, as you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so then another question we get here is, what if my partner doesn't want to do this with me? So typically that are people that are reaching out to us. It's women that are reaching out to us, and we typically deal with female infertility. When we dig in further, even though the male may be saying their sperm count is fine, we typically are finding things that we can optimize his health, and sometimes we're actually finding the couple is passing an infection back and forth between each other. So we see that a lot. But really, if your partner doesn't want to do this with you, like we're never dragging someone across the finish line. Really, when I started doing this, I was just coaching women, and then really felt we were missing out on the other equation of this. It takes two to have a baby. So getting the couple together, really getting on the same page around communication, how they each deal with infertility, and really just optimizing communication is really important. And so each person will set their own health goals, and we'll help you set those. But it's like that ripple effect where you'll start doing something, and then your partner will want to do it, and your friends and your colleagues, everyone starts asking, well, what are you doing as far as changing your health and your lifestyle? So it is about that ripple effect, but not dragging someone across the finish line. But in this instance, we really highly recommend doing this with your partner. And and if your partner's not a willing participant, then that's another conversation, I guess, to have before starting a program.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can do this on your own, but as you mentioned, Sarah, you are only half of the equation. And so there have been so many times where, I mean, the focus of the coaching is working with women, but there have been many times where husbands or partners have decided to do testing, and we've uncovered issues there as well. And so if you're both able to be on the same page, the chances of success are that much greater. I mean, obviously, you can't force somebody to do it if they're not ready. And you could go through the process yourself, and maybe they can see some of the changes that you're making, and that may, help them to decide that they want to do it too. But no, especially when it comes to fertility, and from the experience that we've had, you can only get so far if you only do yourself. There's always that other side of the equation to fertility, and it's important that both partners work together.
Yeah, that's why we included the blood chemistry review for both partners. We really will look at the male partner's blood chemistry, and then we can flag potential areas to dig into further if something is coming off as not being in alignment as far as the blood work goes. So that's a good tool that we use to then dig further with additional testing.
Absolutely.
Another question we get, I've never been coached before. Do I really need a coach? And so we're like, coaching is to keep you on track. And also, like, a lot of times people will say, oh, I'm too busy for X, Y, or Z. And really, that just means you're not making that issue a priority right now. So we really dig into, like, what is a priority for you? What are your values? What's getting in the way? What story are you telling yourself? Why hasn't something worked before? Or what's worked for you before? And what's maybe not working for you now? And really digging into that. And really, a lot of times with infertility, it's impacting all aspects of your life. So being able to recognize that and to give voice to it and to help. And as well, so with a coach, it helps you keep on track and setting these manageable goals that you'll be able to see change. So these small shifts over a period of time then will amount to huge change. And really, if you haven't been coached before, like before I became a life coach, I'm like, why would I need a coach? And now I've got a couple coaches. So it's sort of it's just having someone else look at what you're doing in a with a different perspective, and having you call you out on your own bullshit, because a lot of us have it, right? And especially with this, challenging the story that you may have in your head about, there's a lot of people that come to us have been through multiple failed IUIs and IVFs, and there's a lot of heartbreak around this, and frustration, and feeling your back's against the wall, and feeling the biological clock may be ticking. Having someone that's experienced infertility, show you a different way forward that can have a little more ease to this journey. So it's not so pushing and feeling desperate. So you can really start to reframe your thoughts around this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if I could add to what you've already said, but, time and time again, I think we've heard that clients feel comfortable sharing with us things that they're not sharing with other people, because they feel this stigma of they can't get pregnant, and there's this societal norm of how long it should take and when it should happen, and if it doesn't happen in this time, this is how you should feel and this is how you should do it. And so you tend to internalize that, and so a coach can really help you dig up those emotions and then look at them objectively and really ask yourself, are those your true feelings, or were those projected on you? And give you ways that you can cope with that, or different things that you can say or do. And then, as you said, Sarah, they're also an outsider. They can see your situation differently, from a different perspective. So are able to give you that accountability, to coach you along, to cheer you on, and to give you the tough love when you need it. If you had some homework that you needed to do and you didn't do it, well, that's our job, is to kind of put you in the hot seat, and well, why? Let's dig into, why didn't you do it? What was going on? What can we do differently next time? So really is a different experience. And there's a lot of people who, want to do it on your own, but having that outsider that you can always know you can turn to if you have a question is really valuable.
Yeah, a lot of times people will go to other practitioners, such so you could go to a functional medical doctor, you could go to a naturopath, an acupuncturist. But really, like those practitioners are obviously trained practitioners, but they're not trained in coaching and not trained to actually have you make these diet and lifestyle changes. And so that's where we're unique as far as actually we have the testing, and then when the rubber hits the road, it's actually having someone help you implement these changes and have you move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And there, I mean, you're seeing more and more functional medicine doctors who are embracing having health coaches work for them, because they can't do all of that support after the fact. I mean, they can interpret your test results, they can give you a protocol, but they're not able to give you that ongoing support. That's where a health coach or a coach can do that. They can hold your hand through the process and answer your questions and make changes and make tweaks and check in with you and see how you're doing to help you along the way while you're going through the process.
Absolutely. And another question we get a lot is or a worry or a fear around this is, what happens if I become obsessed with my fertility? And this one has been coming up a lot lately. People even concerned about listening to the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, because it's like, oh my goodness, am I going to become so obsessed with this? And really, so we found actually the opposite. Because the thing is, if you're struggling with infertility, as I was saying before, it already impacts every aspect of your life, your relationships, your joy, your career, your social life. Everything is, you can look at it through infertility, through the lens of infertility, impacts every aspect of your life. So it's already happening right now. You're already kind of potentially in this negative frame of mind. And a lot of times what's happening is you're not giving voice to these thoughts. So then it's prolonging the suffering. You just keep pushing it down, just keep, pushing on. And when doing the coaching program, we're allowing you to talk about these issues, and then you're being able to move through them. So instead of pushing them down, which again, we're talking about prolonging the suffering. So then we focus on what you can control. So looking at, diet, things that you can control, lifestyle, things that you can control, and then you start to bring joy back into your life. So we have found the opposite of becoming obsessed, because again, we don't go head first on the infertility diagnosis. We're looking at your whole body. So the mental, emotional stressors, the gut infection, the food sensitivities, if there's a structural stress going on, and the environmental toxins, all these different things, looking at your whole body. And then that will then kind of bring your body back into balance.
Yeah, I'm going to try to see if I can use an analogy from the health perspective. And I think I've used this before, but if you look at your diagnosis of infertility, and you put it in the analogy of you're a detective and you're going to a crime scene, the obsession is you really actually don't know the root as to why you're having issues with your fertility. So you're reading all of these blogs, you're reading all the information, you're listening to podcasts, you're doing all of this stuff, listening to other people's experiences and making assumptions that all of those experiences are true for you. Whereas if you go through the process that we talk about where we actually do the testing, then you're actually getting the clues that tell you what's actually going on. So if we take that crime scene analogy, by going through the process that we have, you're going to a crime scene and you're getting all of the evidence, and the evidence is going to tell you the story of what happened. You're not just making assumptions about how the crime happened. You're actually gathering the evidence so that you can come to a conclusion that actually tells you what happens. And that's what we do on the health side of things through the coaching with the testing. We actually are starting to dig deeper to say, what are some of the reasons why your body is responding to all of these stressors by being impacted, your fertility being impacted. And it actually, I think, helps our couples feel better and have peace of mind. And they don't obsessive much because they actually know what's going on. So they know, okay, now I know what this is, and there is a plan, and now I have a plan that works specifically for me. They're not just making an assumption that they have to take these 20 different supplements because all these people said that they took them and it helped them. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
just random.
Yeah. We're looking at your blood chemistry, seeing exactly what's happening in there. We're looking at these functional tests, and then, as you say, we have a plan, and then there's comfort in that, and then you work the plan. And then we see when we fall off, like if we're talking about focusing on reducing stress, whatever made the plan, or implementing exercise, whatever it is, there's a plan just for you, and then we can kind of see, well, why didn't that happen as to what it is we were supposed to do. So, and again, kind of going back to that, if you're too busy, that means it's not a priority. So why is that? So digging back into those stories and things that we tell ourselves over and over again. So yeah, the piece about the plan is important. And then also being able to wiggle it out a little bit too, like not getting so stuck on a plan. Because I think the whole fertility journey can potentially have too much planning in there. So it's really to be able to kind of wiggle into that piece and see what's going to feel right for you.
Yeah, I mean, and that plan could include patience and understanding. Any health journey it's very frustrating. But when you know why you're having the symptoms you're having, and then you know that there's steps that you need to do to resolve them. And if you know, okay, like for the infertility journey, if you know that you have 3 parasites and a bacterial infection and candida, and it might take 6 months to clear all that up, but at the end of those 6 months, your body will be so much more prepared and ready to try for a baby. You may be more willing to have that patience for the 6 months because you know why. Whereas if you don't know the whys, you may be just like, okay, I just want to get this done in 30 days. And then if it doesn't work, then I'm going to go and do something else.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So when I talk to people, I'm like, if you have a proven protocol, would you do it and why? Mm-hmm. And I'd say most people say, yeah, I do it. If it was a proven protocol, I do it.
Right.
If you know where to go. Sometimes in this sort of thing, we're throwing a dart at a dartboard in the dark and not really knowing where to go because we're confused about it.
Exactly.
So, okay. So now another one we have is I've got a fertility treatment coming up, and I don't think I can commit to doing the program. There's a couple things on this. So if you've decided you have an IVF or an IUI coming up, and it's coming up in the next month. So if it's coming up that close, like in the next 30 days, then typically we would say dig into the whole mindfulness piece and really visualize the crap out of this thing. Visualize this thing working for you, and using, if you want to use emotional freedom techniques, so tapping, visualizations, affirmations, meditation, like fertility yoga, like really go into the whole mind body piece of this. Because if we go down the functional testing 30 days and making dietary changes, it's just too short of a period. And it could be detox reactions. So like we wouldn't recommend that. So if it's coming up in the next 30 days, we would, recommend really digging full bore into the mind body fertility. And I've got lots of free resources for that. Plus there's a fertility yoga series to dig in. Now, if you probably say the next 3 to 6 months that you're ready to look at this, ready to take a functional medicine approach. And because if you're doing the testing and then you're not going to then, because there's obviously an investment in the testing, you're not going to make those diet and lifestyle changes, it doesn't even make sense to do that. So really, if you're going to the functional medicine side of things, you'll either get pregnant naturally, or if you do go to the fertility clinic, so there's a success rate of doing that. Basically, it's a 30 to 40% success rate of an IVF working. And it takes 3 cycles at an average cost of $60,000. So like a huge investment. And if there's something going on, like why are you having a hard time conceiving? So really for us and we've done a podcast on this of why we feel the going to the fertility clinic should be the last step. Like let's focus now and see, well, why is it you can't conceive? And using the functional testing, looking at your blood chemistry, making those diet and lifestyle changes now. So it's really, it's protecting your investment. So if when you do go, your success of 30% will be higher. Those are the kind of two things. If you got one coming up in the next 30 days, really dig into the mindfulness piece and really visualize this thing working. If you're giving yourself a little more time before you say you want to try IVF or an IUI, then really invest in that piece to making these diet and lifestyle changes and give it time to work. Because if depending on how old you are, it's something's been going on in your body for a number of years potentially, and it's not just a quick fix. Although you can start to see major improvement in as little as 30 days, even by making diet changes. So it is an investment in your health.
The other thing to think about, and when you're talking about the investment in your health, is that if you rush and you're in a rush and you go to get the fertility treatment and it's not successful, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to try to take the 6 months and work my body and maybe take a different approach. Understanding that every time that you do IVF, you are adding risk and stressors to your body, because the procedure involves exogenous hormones, outside hormones that are being given to your body, which will impact you down the road. So really thinking in your mind how this is going to affect my health long term, I think really needs to be a consideration, especially if you're considering doing more than one treatment if the first one is not successful. And if you're paying for this out of pocket, I mean, like Sarah said, it would make sense to delay it and invest as much time as you can to prepare your body for the best chances of success, especially if you're making such a big investment out of pocket, because you don't want to have to do that again 2, 3. I mean, we've had people who've done it 5, 6, 7 times and it has not been successful. Really thinking about that. And I know some people don't want to hear it, but I think that's something that people really need to consider. And the other consideration too is, if you are having troubles conceiving, if you were on birth control, why were you put on birth control in the first place? Were you put on birth control in the first place in your teens because you had irregular cycles? Guess what? That didn't fix your cycle. So that original problem from your teenage years of why you had irregular cycles never got fixed by going on the pill. And now you're coming off of it and your cycles are irregular again. You have to fix the problem from back when you were a teenager, and that takes time. So we're not trying to, fearmonger or anything like that. We're trying to provide education and empower you so that you can really think about what you want to do so that you can have the best chances of success on becoming pregnant, like Sarah says, naturally or through IVF. And we're really here to help you and try to provide that education and insight and get you to that ultimate goal of becoming pregnant and having your baby.
Yeah, and as your body's whispering to you, when you ignore the signals, it'll start shouting in the form of disease. So it's not just infertility, there's other things going on in your health. And that's why I've curated this podcast and really talking about different specific issues you could have going on, be it acne, be it IBS, be it migraines, be it I'm doing one on sleep apnea in a couple of days. So really, if there's these other health issues, those are the things to actually dig into, not the infertility per se. So it's like, let's look at the whole body.
Yeah, the infertility is just a symptom of something that was going on before. Mm-hmm. And so it's really, you really want to get to the root of why you're having the symptom. And infertility is a symptom. It's a symptom of something deeper underneath. And that's not going to fix itself by going to IVF. It's not going to get better by ignoring it and going to IVF for it to help you get pregnant, because it's just going to rear its head again postpartum. And it may be even harder for you to address it afterwards. And that's, again, another reason why we're so passionate about trying to give this education to you now so that you can take control of your health.
Absolutely. Another question we get is, what if I don't have time? So this is kind of the tough love thing where it's like, we recommend, and it's different for everyone. So I'm going to say 1 to 5 hours a week, depending on what it is. Each person is different. But really, the main thing, if obviously we're going to recommend that you potentially are changing your diet. So with that could be some food prep. You could do some meal delivery services. A lot of our couples will do that. So there's going to be some additional food prep, which in the long run actually ends up saving you money because you're not eating out as much. Plus, you're going to start feeling awesome. And then mindfulness side of things. So, starting to integrate mindfulness into your daily routine as you go along. Or you could then even start doing some meditation. So that could be, maybe starting at 5 minutes a day, going up to 20 to 30 minutes a day. Prioritizing sleep. We're going to have you, getting into bed a little bit earlier. Movement. We want to make sure that you're moving at least 30 minutes a day. So again, that's that kind of that 1 to 5 hours a week. Self-care, looking at baths or reading or meditating or sweating, things that you like to do. So integrating those good things into your life. And then a lot of times it's setting boundaries. So you get to do the stuff you love and say no to the crap you don't want to do anymore. So it's really being able to say, this is for you. This is like self-care is uber important. And you'll be able to start to really prioritize the important things and start putting yourself first. And it's really important time to mother yourself before your baby comes along. So, I don't know how the time is it's kind of, we have people dig a little bit deeper because everybody has the time to do things that they want. And so we'd be able to prioritize that and see, what is it you want to have happen here? And obviously our goal is for you to have a child, but also the main goal is to have you like super healthy, you and your partner in like this really great space as far as communication, your relationship, your social life, your joy, everything to be in a really great space. Because right now you could be feeling in a really, really deep, like dark, negative space. A lot of people that come to us are feeling extremely frustrated and like the clock is ticking and they feel like uber pressure to get this, to make this happen yesterday. So, in the grand scheme of things, this kind of a little bit of time of 1 to 5 hours a week is quite small.
Yeah, I think my tough love's going to be a little bit tougher than yours on this response. I don't have time. That is, and obviously there's so many ways you can take it. It's you don't have time to implement the changes in your work week or in your life at the moment. Or there's the other aspect of I don't have time because of my age. So I'm gonna attack and be a little bit more tough on the I don't have time in my week. If you can't take the time now before you have children to do these things, you will never have the time after. There is no such thing as having time to do stuff once you become a parent. Your time is gone. This is the time now where, and I'm sure Sarah could probably attest to it too, if I could go back and tell myself before I had kids what I know now, you better bet I would have found the time, an hour to 5 hours a week to do all of these self-care things, because it would have implemented a habit that I could have brought into my life now having kids. So that's an excuse that really is a mindset that we can help you shift. But that's an excuse that if you're using it, you really have to dig into it, because you will never have the time if that's what your thought process is now. You need to find the time. We will meet you where you are. We're not expecting you, like Sarah said, to meditate for an hour. 5 minutes a day. Everybody has 5 minutes a day to do that. I am a little bit more tough on that than Sarah is with the I don't have time. I am going to be a little bit gentler with those people who use the I don't have time because of their age, and we can totally respect and understand that. So if you're coming to us, in your 40s, it may be that, yes, you are in a time crunch, because every woman is different as to when they start going into that perimenopausal stage, which is the stage of your fertility as you're entering into menopause that can last anywhere from 2 to 10 years. And it's really hard to tell. We have no idea. We can't tell you how long that stage will last. So obviously we understand that is going to be harder at that point in your life to get pregnant, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible. And I almost feel like dedicating the 3 to 6 months to really get yourself healthy, especially at that age, is even more important, because becoming a mother in your 40s, it is a lot harder on your body. And the more prepared you can be, the healthier your body can be, the easier it's going to be for you to go through that pregnancy smoothly without complications, and the easier it's going to be for you to recover postpartum.
Absolutely. And really, and like that one is a hard one, right? Because we speak to women on a regular basis and feeling, up against the biological clock and feeling that the only option is IVF. Whereas again, well, why isn't it working? Let's dig into looking at your blood chemistry, looking at your lifestyle and diet practices, and really, instead of rushing over there to the fertility clinic, taking it back a little bit and figuring out to really set yourself up for that preconception health, for the health of your postpartum period, and also the health of your children. So, we've talked about that before as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Genetics.
And I mean, I can give just a personal anecdote. I had my last child at 37. And so for a lot of people, if they're thinking about having kids in their late 30s, that is starting to be that age where a couple more years and they would have considered me a geriatric pregnancy, like where there's more risks, there's higher risks. And I can tell you that my last pregnancy was probably better than my first 2 pregnancies when I was younger, because I had gone through the process of taking the functional diagnostic nutrition course, doing the protocols on myself, finding out that I had celiac. So I was better in tune with my body and knew what it was telling me. I was more in tune with my hormones, and I recovered better after pregnancy this last time. So it's definitely not impossible. And I really feel like the older you are, I totally understand and sympathize that, the time crunch and the time window to get pregnant is getting shorter. But I think it's even more important that the preconception health becomes a priority for you as you age.
Agree. Okay, so the next question we have is, feeling overwhelmed with emotions and feeling just super stressed, just worry about everything. So a lot of times people come to us and I've mentioned this before. So if you've had multiple failed IUIs and IVFs, like going straight into elimination diet and full-on testing may not be the right start. Because and we've spoken to women like 15 IUIs, 7, 8, 9 IVFs failed. Like that is the heartbreak associated with that kind of, with that it's hard to even give voice to that. But it really is. So for that situation, would recommend looking at emotional freedom technique, because there's potentially could be trauma associated with going through that for years. And then looking at our mindfulness series. So we run those a couple times a year, our Mind Body Fertility series, and really looking at reframing your thoughts and adding in visualization and being able to actually see this thing working some way, somehow, that you will be a mother or add to your family. If that's where you are, that's where we would recommend starting. And then if you're just starting on this journey, or maybe you've had one failed IVF or IUI, a lot of this is to really, well, first of all, giving voice to the negative thoughts that you're experiencing. Again, we talked about that before, about instead of stuffing them down, which really prolongs the suffering, being able to give voice to them, and also having your partner on the same page, because you and he could be handling infertility differently. And doesn't mean that each of you aren't, in pain. And so it's really being able to open up a dialogue around this to help improve communication, really, so you feel less alone. Yeah, the whole isolation around infertility, when I was going through it, I really didn't have anyone. I had no one that I could talk to about with donor eggs. This was, years and years ago. I was in these random chat groups and forums trying to trying to connect with people. But everyone around me, no one knew what I was going through. And that's why I started this podcast and started coaching people to be able to help them during this really stressful period in their life. So if you're feeling super overwhelmed with the emotions and feeling stressed, if you've had multiple failed IUIs or IVFs, starting with mindfulness, looking at EFT, getting coached kind of around the emotions with the fertility journey is where I'd start. If you've just been diagnosed with infertility, or you've had one failed IUI or IVF, then really we could start with the elimination diet and go into some of the functional testing, because actually we'll find there's a whole food mood connection. We find this a lot with when you actually change your diet, your moods can actually improve, and you have the brain fog lifts, the anxiety starts to go away, depression, things like that. So that would be kind of where we go, but also we're weaving in those mindfulness tools along the way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not uncommon for people to come to us in that situation where they feel very overwhelmed, very anxious. Absolutely, we've had situations where we've just decided, I think we need to take a step back and focus on helping your emotional health and working on that, because just working on that, being able to get those emotions out in a safe place will help you to feel better. And then it will also help you to not feel so overwhelmed in implementing some of the other lifestyle changes that we might recommend.
Yeah, and the emotional freedom technique is really quite powerful. That's part of our mindfulness series, and Brandy does that, and does a group EFT with the participants. And really, it can sometimes it's very emotional, but to get some of that stuff out of you, you don't even know as she's leading you through the process. You don't even know that some of those traumas are locked within you, and opening that up, and then you can it's like a clearing. You can start to move forward.
Yeah, there's some pretty common limiting beliefs that you could have that you aren't aware that are there. And as we go through some of those processes, you start to say to yourself, wow, I didn't even think that that's what my brain was telling myself. Like, no wonder I'm stopping myself from doing what I need to do, or I'm blocking my body from working properly because I have this ingrained belief that I didn't know was there. It could be really, really helpful.
Mm-hmm. And so we touched on this next one a little bit, but so can't I just do this on your own? So, this is where, here's a kind of a harsh statement though. If you could have done it by yourself, you already would have done it. So like a lot of the times, we see kind of things where people are doing things by themselves, where I would say the majority of people that come to me, they tell me they're eating a clean diet. And when we dig into it further, they may be eating a clean diet, but we're looking at a diet that's right for you. So again, like just those small tweaks, again, with the supplements that we talked about, you could be taking a whole whack of supplements. And most people that come to us are taking quite a lot of supplements, but you could be taking the wrong supplements. They could be filled with chemicals or fillers or top allergens, or maybe they have gluten in it. Again, kind of dig in that customized approach for you. You could be told that all your labs are normal, where in functional medicine, we see areas to dig into further. So it's really kind of looking at a few tweaks, and then you can really begin to optimize your health. And that's where we're to have two people, like two experts in fertility, with their eyes on your issue, being able to help you get pregnant, or if naturally, or if you need to go to the fertility clinic, it improves your chances of success. So it's really, that self-prescribing and doing it by yourself, you can sometimes only get so far.
Yeah. I mean, even as coaches ourselves, it's hard for us to even look at our own cases in an objective way. And so it's so much better to have an outside perspective, or somebody who's already had the experience to help you walk through it, because it's really hard for yourself to look at your own specific case and be objective and set goals that you can achieve. So having someone to help you is just, it's amazing. I can't even describe it. Like you said, Sarah, it's that ongoing support that I think you would find invaluable to have.
And then, so the other one over here is I don't think I can afford it. So obviously, functional medicine, there is an investment, the testing, there's an investment in the testing, and obviously an investment in the coaching. So an IUI has a 10% success rate, and an IVF has about an average 30% success rate. And really those stats are, and as we talked about with IVF, it takes 3 cycles at an average cost of $60,000. So it's a lot of money. And really people that come to work with us, so 100% of our clients completely transform their lives. So they either get pregnant naturally or they increase their chances at the fertility clinic. So like people coming to us and making these shifts, it's life-changing. Brandy and I have experienced it firsthand. It's life-changing when you find functional medicine. And that's why we're on this podcast, because I can't believe that most people don't even know what the hell it is. And I'm like, please, it's over here. It's like the future of conventional medicine. Really, I do believe, and I don't know how long it's going to take. Might maybe take 20 years, but I believe we're going to look back going, why were we all rushing to the fertility clinic? What the hell were we doing? So with functional medicine, if there's an underlying health issue that hasn't been addressed, like the food sensitivity, a gut infection, environmental toxins you're exposed to, mental emotional stress, the body wants to survive. It doesn't want to procreate. To me, there's really no downside to focusing on your health. And really, we talked about, a healthy mom and dad, healthy pregnancy, healthy baby. It's all connected. And going to the fertility clinic, it's that Band-Aid approach. And so we understand, obviously, if you've had, multiple failed cycles and have already invested a lot of money into that. That's why we've done the podcast. You can listen to all of our episodes and listen to what we're saying here, but really taking that personalized approach and having someone guide you through this can help make some tweaks and get faster results.
Yeah. I mean, we can totally understand that for some people, like they truly cannot afford it right now, but with anything with health, you have to think about it. You're either going to put the investment in now and make the improvements to your health that need to happen, or you're going to have to put that investment in later down the road when you haven't addressed maybe some of the underlying whys. And, 20, 30, 40 years from now, you're dealing with some other diagnosed illness that you don't want to be dealing with that's going to impact your life. And so you may have heard somebody say that, like, you're going to, the analogy or the meme that you see is like, oh, organic food is expensive. Well, yeah, but you're either going to pay for the food now and keep yourself healthy, or you're going to take that money and spend it on pharmaceutical medication down the road because you're sick. Which investment would you rather make? I mean, I'd rather make the investment in boosting my health now so that I could have a long, healthy life rather than, ignoring it and not finding the money to do it, but then having to come up with the money when I have a severe illness that's affecting my life later on.
Yeah, it's kind of like you got to pay the piper. At one point, if you don't address these underlying issues, and right now your body is trying to tell you something. So there's an issue going on, and to be able to use the tools of functional medicine to start to correct it, and really correcting it now before going through pregnancy, postpartum, dealing with your children. Potentially, those issues are then passed to your children because you haven't corrected the issues, and with your own health, which was the case for me. So again, the body's whispering to you. When you ignore it, the signals, it's going to start shouting at you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then sort of the last question we have is, sometimes people are sort of unsure that this program is going to work for you. And a lot of people have come to us and said they're eating a clean diet. They've made lots of changes around their lifestyle. They've added in meditation, visualization, yoga. And really, so as we've said before, it's really having 2 people that are experts, looking at your case, your specific case. And a lot of people who come to us have fairly complicated cases. So it's like looking at the case and being able to then make these tweaks, these seemingly sometimes small, sometimes actually big tweaks that then amount to huge change, which is you getting pregnant. It's having someone look at this in a completely different light. And, the old analogy of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results is a definition of insanity. And it's kind of like going to the same practitioner over and over again, and then missing a whole bunch of clues. As in functional medicine, when people come to us, like it's a 20-page intake form for your health history, and we're asking questions you've probably never been asked before, and really digging into all sorts of underlying issues that have been missed. And I see it, even in my own health, and even in my family's health. We'll go to the doctor. People are like, the doctor's like, everything looks great. Then we have it run through the functional medicine model. Oh wait, we just found this, and this. Things that the conventional doctor said, everything's fine, don't worry. And it's not about worrying, it's about being able to take action and be able to prevent things later on. Yeah, that's my take on that. Any thoughts on that, Brandy?
Yeah, and I mean, I think, again, this is a question that comes back to mindset. You have to be ready and open to jump into a program like this. And if you have doubt in your mind that it's not going to work, then it's not going to work for you, because it's not a magic formula where Sarah and I do all the work for you. You have to put in the work. You do have to be committed. But we will promise you that we will support you. And if you do put in the work, you will see changes in your health. That I can promise. Is it going to fix everything? There's no guarantee. I mean, nobody can promise you that what they're going to provide to you is going to fix all of your health ailments and going to make you 100% perfectly healthy. That just doesn't exist. But we can promise you that you will improve your chances and improve your health if you put the work in. And we promise to support you and do our part in supporting you. But we can't do the work for you. And if you don't think it's going to work for you, it's not going to, because that's the mindset that you have. So you really have to be open and have a mindset of being open and trying it and trying a different approach and putting in the work. And I think you'd be pleasantly surprised what you would get at the end of the process.
Yeah, being open-minded is key. Like if you're questioning the whole side of functional medicine, then maybe it's not for you, and that's okay. And it may even just be listening to this podcast, we planted a seed that, oh wait, there's another way. And when you're ready to hear the message, hopefully the fact that you found the podcast at this stage and you're sitting here right now in your car or in your living room with your partner listening to us, that you're kind of got a aha or a wake up call to kind of go, wait, let's look at this differently. But if you're not ready, that's okay. And so really it is about, when the students ready, the teacher will appear. Is that the quote? Being able to just look at things with an open mind and really doing what feels right for you in the end of the day.
Absolutely. And we're not going to pressure you to do something that you're not ready to do. If you're not ready, you're not ready. There's no judgment whatsoever. We still want to provide education and content and to help you along your journey. And as you said, Sarah, when your mind is open and ready, you'll hear the message differently and you'll know that it's time to take action. So it's really up to you and when you feel ready to be open to this process.
Absolutely. So if you are feeling ready to dive into learn more how functional medicine can help you, you can book your free call just by going to Fab Fertile, FabFertile.com. Just click on the link to book your free call, and we can chat to you and your partner to see how this program can help you. If you have any other questions in the meantime, you can pop them in the comment section, and feel free to leave a review on the podcast as well, and would love your feedback.
Hey there, I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 2 spots available per month to work with us. So the Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery Call is for action takers and really people who are ready to move forward so they can finally have their baby. And if you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. So if you're seriously considering working with us, go to Fab Fertile, FabFertile.com, and click on Book a Free Call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. That's Fab Fertile, FabFertile.com, and click on Book a Free Call. The Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, including show notes and links, provides information with respect to healthy living, nutrition, lab testing, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.